استووا قيموا صفوفكم واعتدلوا يرحمكم الله. Straighten the lines, please. Stand shoulder to shoulder and feet to feet. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. وإذا كنت فيهم فأقمت لهم الصلاة فلتقم طائفة منهم معك وليأخذوا أسلحتهم فإذا سجدوا فليكونوا من ورائكم ولتأت طائفة أخرى لم يصلوا فليصلوا معك وليأخذوا حذرهم وأسلحتهم ود الذين كفروا لو تغفلون عن أسلحتكم وأمتعتكم فيميلون عليكم ميلة واحدة ولا جناح عليكم إن كان بكم أذى من مطر أو كنتم مرضى أن تضعوا أسلحتكم وخذوا حذركم إن الله أعد للكافرين عذابا مهينا فإذا قضيتم الصلاة فاذكروا الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبكم فإذا اطمأننتم فأقيموا الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا ولا تهنوا في ابتغاء القوم إن تكونوا تألمون فإنهم يألمون كما تألمون وترجون من الله ما لا يرجون وكان الله عليما حكيما. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. إنا أنزلنا إليك الكتاب بالحق لتحكم بين الناس بما أراك الله ولا تكن للخائنين خصيما واستغفر الله إن الله كان غفورا رحيما. ولا تجادل عن الذين يختانون أنفسهم إن الله لا يحب من كان خوانا أثيما. يستخفون من الناس ولا يستخفون من الله وهو معهم إذ يبيتون ما لا يرضى من القول وكان الله بما يعملون محيطا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الله وله الحمد.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We'll continue with the RIC Family Halaqa after the remaining sunnah. Today's topic is how to protect your children online. And we have a guest speaker by Brother Nur Chaudary, all the way from Tower Hamlets. So try to stay behind, and there's a lot of people, inshallah, who will join us online. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Inshallah, from tomorrow, Salatul Isha Jama will be at 7:30.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. As was mentioned, the topic of today was in and around kind of safety online, specifically around keeping children safe online. Yeah, as we know, the terrain has changed very much to, say, 15, 20 years ago with the advent of a lot of new technological advancements. And it becomes really important to understand how we can really protect our children, because with all of these advancements comes a lot of issues, problems and concerns as well. And so it's really important that we're able to look and understand about the implications of technology, as well as how we can then protect our children as well. Normally this presentation is a bit explicit, so I'll have to just tone down some of the words, and I'm sure brothers will understand because of children here. So just to kick off, just in and around tech, and it's something that I always talk about when we look at other examples of those who started a lot of different technology. So examples we'll use is, for example, Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft. Now, what he did is, in 2007, he gave this interview and he mentioned back in 2007 how he used to implement a cap on screen time for his children. Because, again, he knew that there's unhealthy attachment that can be brought about from unfettered access to screens. And he didn't allow his children to get smartphones until the age of 14. And today the average age of a child getting a smartphone is at the age of 10. And I'm sure you know of many other children, or your children may come across it, other children who, even younger ages, 7, 6, 5, are having smartphones. We also then can turn and look towards someone like Steve Jobs, again, founder of Apple, now deceased. But back in 2011, in an interview he gave with the New York Times, he said that they limit, he said, quote unquote, we limit the how much technology our kids use at home. And then he went on to further say, and remember, Steve Jobs was the one who's created the iPad. Yeah. Now he said that actually we don't allow the iPad in our home, yeah, because we think it's too dangerous for them, or it has a dangerous effect on them. So the man who created the iPad himself is saying he won't let his children access it, yet he'll go on public platforms and talk about the amazing new technology going into every single sector of work, including education, how iPads are really important for children. And we know that in Silicon Valley in America is where most of the technological tech companies are. And there, most of those tech giant companies, there's a specific school called the Waldorf School, and that Waldorf School is where all of those tech giants send their children. Now you may think that from these tech companies, they're sending the children to this school, so they're probably going to start learning programming when they're in nappies, and they're going to really be advanced. However, one of the things that are significantly clear is that the Waldorf School is very much noticeably low tech. They ban electronic devices for under 11-year-olds. They use the chalkboard and number 2 pencil, and they focus more not on these skills such as coding, but rather interpersonal skills and social skills, such as cooperation and respect. Now, I always start off with these key points because it's important to understand that technology that's been brought to us from these different companies and these organizations, the founders of those companies, how is it that they interact with technology within their own home? And that's an important thing to understand, because the one who created it, therefore, will know better than us. And they're the ones who are pushing it out and allowing the people to consume this technology. So, what is the real impact that we see from basically technology that's happening today? And there's 3 key issues that we're finding from the impact of it. The first one is that there's research has shown that there's been a rise in depression linked with teenagers. And it says that there's this American research that found that 8th graders, so you're looking at kind of those who are 13 to 14 years old, the risk of depression jumped 27% when they frequently use social media. And that children, additionally, children who had used their phones for at least 3 hours a day tend to be much more likely to be suicidal. And in America, they showed the studies that the rate of teenage suicide has gone on to eclipse the rate of homicide in America, meaning murder. And one of those driving factors in this suicide is basically the use of smartphones. And additionally, screen time in itself, it really shortens the attention span. Studies have shown that psychologists in Iowa State University found that kids who had exceeded the recommended amount of screen time in a day were 1.5 times to 2 times more likely to have less attention span within the classroom. So there is an impact, and the more the years and the time goes on, we will see more and more research coming out looking at the harmful impact of technology. So I want to kind of move into the kind of key different areas around technology that are there. So for us as parents, how do our children engage with technology? So we'll look at kind of 3 different areas. First, we'll go through gaming. The next one we'll go through just generally laptop or tablets access. And the third one we'll go through is regarding smartphones. And I want to go through just picking up some examples regarding each of those areas, just to bring to light how dangerous some of these areas are if we are not fully clued on as to what's there and what we can do to help mitigate it. So the first one, under gaming, one of the most popular games, I'm sure those parents who have children who game or who allow them to, one of the more popular ones for a lot of children is Fortnite. Now, it's one of the more, it's come about in the last few years, and it tends to be very much a game that requires a lot of practice, skill, teamwork. And the age rating for that game is 12 years old, yeah, due to some of the mild violence. However, you may think, okay, Fortnite is not that bad, you've seen it, you think it's okay. But there are many dangers that are there within Fortnite. Now, if we're not aware of them, and if we're not able to put in mitigating factors or put in some tools to mitigate the harms, then there's a high amount of risk that is there within it. So firstly is via the voice chat there. If it's not put on the right kind of settings, your child could basically very easily speak to strangers. So it's done where you've got in-game chat, and it's very easy to do that. And there has been cases where it has exposed children to predators, as well as obscene language and more harmful things than that. So that's an important feature that's there within it. The game is designed to have in-game chat. Additionally, Fortnite in itself is a very addictive game, because on average, a game lasts roughly about 22 minutes, give or take. Depends on how many times, depends on the game that you're playing. But within there, it can be an overload of screen time, because really, those who have got children who play it, when they tell them, for example, can you turn it off or pause it, they'll tell you, you can't pause it. When you're in the middle of the match, you actually can't pause it. So it goes on for a very long time. So if they're playing 2 or 3 games, that's a few hours already that's been consumed by just playing online. And one of the things that's been a lot of research has been showing is that by playing this game, there's been a connection with a lot of increase in aggression and anger within children. Because again, if you only a lot of the times in some of the games, because you only have one life, you lose, you can get angry, kids start to rage, and unless another team member revives you, then all of these things can cause problems. And lastly, there's another important feature to be wary of is in-app purchases that you can do. So within the game, you can purchase skins and weapons and other things, but none of these things actually improve the player's ability. It's just cosmetics and around it. And there's been many cases of children who have, because their parents have put on their card details on the game, kids have gone on to purchase numerous things without the knowledge of the parents, and they become very addictive to it as well. So, knowing there's some harms around these games, okay, what can we do? So, firstly, you can very easily change the settings on the console that prevents strangers from adding your children, and also disabling the voice chat. And you'll see a common theme that runs through across all of these different areas we're going to cover. But firstly, you're looking at ensuring that whatever gaming devices they have, maintain it in a communal area within the house. So therefore, you're able to see what they are doing, and it's not somewhere in the privacy in their own room. Also, avoiding use of headphones so you can hear the chat that takes place online and who they're talking to. Vetting the friends that they're adding, so not just allowing anybody to be added onto their parties that they have, that they could create a party chat, so they can only speak to friends that they know. And also ensuring your children take regular breaks. Because otherwise, like I said, it's addictive and they can go on for hours and hours, and that causes its own harms. And lastly, ensuring that payment details aren't stored online on the console. And those things are kind of measures you can put in place to try and create a more healthy engagement with the game. Ideally, looking at obviously limiting it as much as possible, but those of you who wish to allow it, then it's allowing some healthy interaction. There are other games, again, there's so many that we can go through. So there's, again, another one is very much Call of Duty is another popular game now, with a lot more younger children picking it up, even though it's age rating 18 over due to the violence. But similar issues, just like you get in Fortnite, you can have talk with strangers, video chats, and in-app purchases. Another game that it may seem very innocent, and you will hear a lot of it, is Roblox. So Roblox is age rating 7. However, there are a lot of harms within there, because parents may think, okay, it's a very simple game, is where they build or different kind of characters and different homes and different things within the game in itself. However, same thing, predators are online on Roblox, and there's been many cases of it where they're using third-party chat apps to be able to get into the game. Also, they've got a lot of avatars that are very explicit. They can be created very explicitly. And so, again, there was a case where a mother noticed that her 6-year-old had been invited into a room that had a certain name to it by a friend. And in that room, all the characters were actually performing certain lewd acts on each other. And so this is a 6-year-old child who was accessing these things. Additionally, on YouTube, you can also find videos where a lot of the players record videos and they upload it on YouTube. So kids go to watch him to learn how to do further things. Again, there's ways that they go around the YouTube by having these specific games where they've got lewd acts taking place on YouTube. So your child could very easily accidentally slip into watching some of these videos of different characters performing different acts. So it's very important overall, just in and around gaming, that there are there's one of the easiest ways for children to get access, or children to, so predators to get access to your child. And additionally, obviously, there's other harms that come with it. So it's really important that we're able to be aware of the harms and put in a lot of the controls. So there are a lot of controls within the games in itself that you can put in, parental controls that help to restrict access or easy access that predators could have to your children. And similarly, ensuring that these devices are kept in communal areas and you're able to hear and see what your children are engaging with become ways that you can help protect them. Let's skip that. One of the leading kind of explicit websites gave a statistic back in 2019. And on that website, they showed the amount of traffic that were coming via different gaming consoles to their site, of which the most popular console that was accessing these sites was the PlayStation by 51.5%. Then you had the Xbox at 34.3%, and so on and so on. The key information that you can take from this is that you may think that your children don't have, for example, access to a laptop or to a mobile device. They've just got access to a game. But actually, via the consoles, there are a large number of people who are accessing these explicit websites. Now, these websites, remember, the majority of people who are playing these actual consoles are children. So children unknowingly are accessing these things. So if we're not aware that the children can actually access all of these things via the consoles, and we don't put the measures in place, then again, we are leaving the door open for our children to possibly fall into harmful things. Similar, if we move on, so with this gaming, then we look at kind of laptops and tablets. Now, it's really important with the laptops and tablets. Now, with COVID, everything changed, where schools then start to provide access to technology to allow home learning to take place, whereas before, maybe children necessarily didn't have access to laptops or tablets. So now it's a bit more easier access children have. So it becomes even more important than before, where maybe you may have restricted the access to these devices, that we are very aware of what could possibly take place via the laptops and put in measures in place. Now, via laptops, you can access many different websites, go into many different chat rooms, go into many explicit content. It's very, very easy. So it becomes really important, and sometimes we forget these. But these are the basic things that parents need to be doing with technology, with laptops. Firstly, with your internet, is ensuring that you have internet filters put in place. Yeah? So you can get, for example, like Norton Famliy filters and others that restrict what sites can be accessed via the main internet or the router at home. So it's really important that we do actually put those measures in place. I can't emphasize it enough, thinking that if we just leave the door open, then there's a massive risk. Accidentally, children fall. In a lot of the cases that I've come across of children becoming addicted to explicit materials is because of the fact that doors were left open and parents were not wary, and children accidentally stumbled on it, and then one thing led to another, and now there's issues where parents are suffering with children addicted to these things. So it's really important that we do put in the filters in place. Additionally, I stress this so much, but whatever you can is do not allow your bedroom to have any technology, the children's bedrooms to have any technology. It's really important that the bedrooms remain tech-free, and that should be a principle that you run across it, no matter how much you are struggling for space in the house and for ease and comfort. It's really important that you keep the bedroom tech-free. That means ensuring that if they're using any devices, their laptops, if they're doing any work, they always are in communal areas, i.e. living rooms or dining rooms. it's really important that they stay in these places where things can be visible, and it prevents any risk from them falling into any risk from accidentally or via any predators or anything else that may be coming their way. So it's really important that the devices are only used in communal areas. You have the internet filters, and ensuring that you minimize the use of headphones. Ideally, not to have headphones at all. It can be difficult with multiple children, that where possible to prevent that, so you can hear what's being said or whatever conversations are taking place online. So they become really, really important. I can't stress it enough. The number of, again, I'll go back to a number of issues that parents face with their children, go back to them not putting in enough restrictions and technology entering bedroom. Once it enters into the bedroom, it's in the privacy of your child's space, which means that so many things can now, so many doors open to so many harmful things towards your children. And now I'd like to move on to the smartphones. So I said the 3 areas, smartphones. Now, social media, day by day, new social media apps are being created. And like I said, there's a lot of good within the social media that it allowed people to connect with one another, to share things, and have all of those things. However, the harms of it are far worse than what good is within the social media in itself. And smartphones are obviously the direct access into social media. So there are obviously several apps we can talk about on social media, but the one app that I really want to talk about the most, and I think is the most popular app right now that children are engaged in, is TikTok. So TikTok is, formerly it was called Musical.ly. It changed its name to TikTok, and it's a never-ending stream of videos, short videos that are posted up on there. Now, if parents aren't aware of what TikTok is, but predominantly a lot of these TikTok stuff that especially young girls get involved in, it tends to be around TikTok dances and voiceovers that expose children to a lot of profanity and a lot of illicit behavior. And it very much, for a lot of cases, has been a gateway to accessing explicit content. And it becomes objectification of young girls, of girls all in all. And what ends up happening is you have to realize that on there you have a lot of these challenges, a lot of these videos of young girls, sometimes the age of 8 and below, who are encouraged to do these specific kind of dances, provocative types of dances, wearing limited clothing, and it's open for anybody to see. Most of the time the default settings are open for anybody to see. So it's a predator's paradise, you could say. He will sit there endlessly watching videos, and what's happening is it's really corrupting our young girls, that they're having to live up to a certain expectation of how they should look, what they need. Additionally, if they get a certain number of likes and follows and all of those things, this is what they are starting to crave. And they realize that the more and more provocative dances that they do, and the less and less clothes they wear, the more and more likes that they will get. And so this is pulling girls. An endless number of, again, same thing, Muslim young girls are falling into this, getting involved in very haram things. And you have to realize that by girls just viewing it, imagine they're not even doing anything, they're just watching on TikTok. It's sending a message to the child that eventually she will start hating the way she looks, because she will see that only these types of figures, these type of people are acceptable. They're the ones who get the likes, they're the ones people like, and they'll start hating themselves. And then it leads on to many other things where eating disorders come into play, self-harming come into play, and worse. So you have to realize what it is that it's teaching them. And remember, with the likes that you get, it's been shown, studies shows that with every time you get likes on social media, your brain is flooded with the dopamine, which then again, the body starts craving more, and it becomes more and more addictive. And that's when they start looking at, if I want to go viral, I need to do all of these kind of things. And you have to realize as well, within TikTok, another thing is there's trends. Every so often trends come up. So the trends start off with stuff like they've got music videos and they have to mimic and use these voiceovers from certain movies or songs, which has got lewd content. They start doing it and doing their own version of it. So they lip kind of singing or syncing. And in those songs, they've got all of the foul language you can think of within there. Then there's other things. There's children here, so I can't even mention half of these. But there's, again, illicit actions you need to do with. There's one where there was doing some illicit, or talking about illicit things with family members to see their reaction, with stepbrothers to see what they'll do. Again, it's endless. And then there's other things that's happened where they start to go, again, it's just very much profanity and illicit content that takes place here. And it just is a gateway to all of these evils that take place. And that's why, one of the things I would say is that TikTok is the worst kind of social media app that is out there. And as a parent, we will be being neglectful to our children if we allow any of our children to start accessing this, especially this social media app. There are others who are all very harmful as well. But this one is the one that I have a passion, or I hate with a passion, because I can just see the harms that are within this app. So it becomes really important that we shouldn't become negligent and thinking that our children are fine, they're good children, and just giving them easy access to all of these things. Also, it's important to realize that within the smartphone, there are many different apps parents do need to be aware of. Obviously, TikTok is there, but then the ones that came before, stuff like Snapchat and Kik and other ones that were designed to be secret, so you can send messages and pictures, and then they'll self-destruct, and all of those kind of things, designed to basically be able to do bad things, but be able to hide it. Also, there's like one app that you can get, there's a few of them, which is like a calculator app. So it's important to understand. There's several of these calculator apps. And what they're designed is when they're installed on the smartphone, they operate just like a normal calculator. So if you do all the functions, it's fine. However, if you put a certain code in, it opens up a secret folder, which you can store images, videos, whatever else you like, and it can't be seen through the main kind of ways you will see via the gallery and other things. So it's a complete secret folder. So then it's designed for children to basically deceive the parents. So you can literally have the phone there. It will work just like a calculator, so your parents will be none the wiser. However, if you put the right code in, whichever you've set, you'll open the secret folder. We can store whatever you like within there. So again, it's really important we're aware that when we give a smartphone to our child and they have access to all of these things unfettered, that the risks and the harms are so dangerous that we need to put in measures in place to ensure that we don't expose our children to this. So the key thing here, when we talk about smartphones, what's the solution? We talked about gaming, and there's certain measures you can put in place alongside with the laptops. But with smartphones, what is the solution? And it's something that I've written on, it's available on my website. But again, I'll go through the key points. The first and foremost is not to give your child a smartphone. You start from basic zero. Do not give your children a smartphone. Children under the age of 16 should not have access to a smartphone. And that's the best thing you can do for your child. Now, you're going to realize that your children will be effectively outcasts or aliens within their own community, within their own school and their friends, because you will find every single one of their peers all have smartphones. I know my children the same thing. They don't have smartphones. So they are very much alien to that. But this is an important thing that you can do for them. But while you're doing this, it's important that we educate our children. We speak to them, explain to them their benefits and their harms, and when they can have it, and why. And it needs a lot of positive reinforcement every so often, because it's obviously difficult for children. But eventually, by you continue to do that process, what they will see is they'll come to accept what the situation is and knowing, okay, that's just how things are. But it's really important we don't give a smartphone. Now, the next step from there is if you need to give a phone, if you have to give a phone for safety reasons or for whatever it may be, an example would be, your children's school is far away, they have to travel home by themselves. We're talking about the teens here, those who are in secondary school maybe. And if you need to give a phone, then give them, what you would call, quote unquote, a dumb phone. The old school Nokias, the ones you can only text and you can only kind of call on, and you can play snakes on. Go back to those kind of phones. And it's really important you give them that, so that way you have the safety if they need to call you and text you And you'll see when they have a dumb phone, they won't be really able to communicate with their friends because, again, everybody's on the social media platforms, on WhatsApp and other places. Thereafter, if you now wish that you still have made a decision that no, you want to give your child a smartphone, and you're at that stage, then if you give them a smartphone, then ensure you don't give a smartphone with a contract that has data. So therefore, they can only access the internet when they're in a Wi-Fi zone, which usually means that if they're going to school, they won't be able to access the internet because they won't have generally speaking, the Wi-Fi in the school, so they'll only be able to use it at home. So therefore, the functions of it, and very much if you want to give these days you can get contracts, SIM-only contracts, very cheap, like £5 a month, and everything is now unlimited texts and calls, which is what you want. The data is basically zero or limited. Moving on to that further stage, if you now wish for them to, they've got the phone, the ideal thing is when they come home, if they have a smartphone, when they come home, they turn the phone in. If they're coming home, there isn't a need for them to use the phone. Turn the phone in. That's the best thing to do. Have a designated space where they turn the phone in, and that's it, it's switched off. They only need it for the journey to school and back. Next kind of step after, if you still then wish to allow your children to have some usage of the phone, then ensure they are limited in their time. So it could be that they come home from school and maybe after dinner or before dinner or something, they'll have an hour slot when they can use their phone. But put a time limit, and it's very important that it's capped. And linked to that, you're ensuring that the use of the smartphone is only in communal areas. So they shouldn't, again, remember the point we mentioned before, technology should be kept out of the bedroom. Bedroom should be tech-free, so keep it in communal areas. If you're going to allow more time for them to use it, same thing, keep it in communal areas, keep it within the home. And the key thing is do not allow them to take the phone with them at bedtime. They should turn the phones in at bedtime. So they give it to your parents and that's it. Because studies have shown that most of the harms that children get into, whether it's cyberbullying, whether it's going on to explicit content, whether it's going to harassing other people and then bullying them, other people even, and more other harmful things, they all happen in nighttime. So it's really important that you don't allow your children to have the phone during the night. They need to be turned in. And so these are the general steps that I would advise. The best step is don't give the smartphone, don't give them a phone at all. But then there's different arrays based on each circumstances and how parents are engaging with their children. So that's why there are different things, but the best solution is not to give the phone at all. But along the way, you can take other steps, which is if you have to give a phone, the dumb phone, then if you give it a smartphone, make sure there's no data, then they turn it in. If you want them to give them some time, keep limited time, communal areas, not allowed to take it into the bedroom. And lastly, what becomes really important for children is, remember, children, they see what you do, more than they listen to what you say. Your actions speak louder than words. So whatever you do, however you engage with the phone and however you engage with social media and technology, your children are observing that. And the best thing you could do is limit the interaction you have with technology in their presence. So when you are at home, try your best to limit that. So lead by example, because that's the best way you'll be able to get your children to listen. That's the best way you'll be able to get your children to follow suit. Because if you're doing one thing and you're telling them not to do it, then they will see the hypocrisy in that. So you have to really remember that. Try to model good behavior yourself. And that also means, for the sake of your children, I would say cut away from social media. Cut away from it, or if you have to use it, or have it, not to have it, or make use of it within the presence of your children, have limited time to yourselves. If you can regulate it yourself, you will then model good behavior and healthy interaction with smartphones and technology and social media, so your children will learn from that. And that becomes the most important thing, that you are leading by example and modeling the correct behavior. And so, with that, there's quite a few sections I've just had to skip because it's just not correct content for the audience. So in summary, the key things that we need to take about protecting our children online is, one, we need to ensure we're not giving them unfettered access to screens. Children who are younger, we have to maintain and see how the interaction with screens are. So the current guidance that's given from different health professions are children under 2 should have no screen time. So children under 2 years old should have 0 screen time. Children who are aged 3 up to 5 should have 1 hour a day of screen time. Now, the problem we end up having during lockdown, this all just flipped upside down. Yeah, because kids are at home, parents can't do anything, and so they had a lot more access to it. But that's an exception to the norm, and that was for a period of time. So don't think like it's the end of the world, my kids are now going to lose it because they've had too much or overdose of it. What we are in the situation that we're in now, again, where general things are very much kind of normal, then we can try to go back and try to introduce caps on screen time or access to screen time. Another key thing is really important is you cut down the use of video gaming, because more and more, especially boys and girls, are creating an unhealthy attachment to video gaming. So it becomes really important, especially if you're going to allow them to do video gaming, then don't do it during school nights, restrict it to weekends, and limit how much they get to do. So it's not like the whole weekend goes playing games. Where possible, is the normal guidance would be for under 11-year-olds, don't give them tablets or laptops. However, a lot of under 11-year-olds start to get devices because of school. So if it's a school work, again, same thing, you're ensuring that they only use it for school and that you restrict the access that they use after that. Delay, obviously, the introduction of smartphones. I would say do not give a smartphone to a child under 16. Post 16 even, it doesn't mean that now they get restricted access. They can get the smartphone, but there needs to be conditions that you put in place. They've got what social media apps they can and can't use, and all of the other restrictions that you can put in place, meaning to slowly expand the boundaries, but they have to also understand the benefits and harms of social media in itself. Again, with smartphones as well, there should be no social media. So those the steps before we said about giving smartphones, maybe with teenagers, is ensure even if you do give a smartphone that they don't have social media. Try to restrict the social media accounts. Again, summarizing, keep technology out of the bedroom. Ensure children aren't using headphones as much as possible. Check the privacy settings within the devices and the internet filters. And if we can do those things, then we help to at least mitigate as much as possible the harms that are out there. Otherwise, we are being negligent as parents. We're just leaving the door wide open for any harms to befall them or for them to fall into harms by their own hands. And this is an important point because, again, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, that every man is a shepherd. And so the mother is a shepherd for her flock, and the father is also a shepherd for his flock, for his children. And we know that they will be asked about our children. We'll be asked about how we raised our children. Our children will be the ones who can bring us in shackles in front of Allah. And unfortunately, there's a high rise. The issue of technology is a high rise because of unfettered access to online, of kids who are going to now at the secondary school age who are becoming atheists. There's a rise of people who are now coming out as LGBT, who are Muslims. And these are two big issues that children are facing now. And the reason why they're getting is because the parents might be thinking, my kid's fine, I dropped them to school, I picked them up, they don't do anything outside. But all the harms are within their hands, in their bedroom, on their devices. And so it's really important that we are mindful and we are of what they're accessing, because it's really through technology where everything is being pumped. Different ideologies, different thinking, which is causing the corruption of the next generation of children. So as I said, parents, you'll be negligent and something you'll be answerable to Allah if we're not actually taking this seriously and ensuring we are putting in the right measures and safety measures in place to protect our children and not allowing unfettered access to overall technology, social media, smartphones. And with that, inshallah, I'll conclude now. Inshallah, I don't know if there's any questions, so we could take some questions and then conclude the session. Yes, John Bay.
Br Nur, you mentioned about some of the gaming and some of the social media stuff. One of the things that I was hoping maybe you could just maybe briefly touch on is a popular one, which is YouTube. And what I found is many parents sometimes use that as a means to maybe quieten a young one down with a certain, I don't know, a kids program or something on there. And sometimes I notice those ones deliberately they put little kind of harmful, how can I say, stuff in there deliberately, and often there's ads in between. So obviously the parent goes away, does the cooking. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's quite, I mean, I would say that's more so that parents allow their children to watch.
Yeah, YouTube, unfortunately, because if you leave your children to watch YouTube, it's one video after another, one click after another. And you mentioned a lot of the children's program. So kids who are really into, superheroes and those kind of things. So they've got these programs, or they've got, especially some of these were from these Chinese videos and others, where they've got adults dressed up as these different superhero characters. And what's happening is within there, they're dressed inappropriately, doing very inappropriate things. And it's because it says superheroes, children, and all of those things, kids are easily watching these kind of behaviors. So they're seeing very lewd behavior between these people who are dressed up as innocent or dressed up for children. Similarly, now I've also noticed that a lot of parents tend to put on these kind of like nursery rhymes. Cocomelon is one of the popular ones, and others, and they leave the kids to watch these. The more newer nursery rhymes out there have content that is LGBT now. Yeah? So they're all coming in there. Newer stuff. So things, for example, I remember when I grew up, Power Rangers was there. And Power Rangers has continued as a series all the way. Recently now, the new latest Power Ranger that came out, I think the latest season of it, has now finally got 2 women. Yeah, so you've got this kind of content now taking place, and kids are watching this. So you're going to go through many, many things. What's it called? My Little Pony. Yeah, again, girls love My Little Pony. The newest seasons of My Little Pony, what happening is now you've got, again, LGBT content. Now you're going to realize more and more of these things that we felt were harmless are actually filtered, and they're all easily accessible via YouTube. So if you're not actually sitting and knowing what they're watching, or if you're given a specific thing to watch, problem is with YouTube, you leave it on and you go away, they can click, go to other videos. So it's always better if you want them to watch something, it should be a defined kind of, a program or something that's downloaded or something on that they can't move to other platforms and watch. Ideally, where children shouldn't really be using YouTube like that as an endless streaming device, because again, all of these other areas of harmful content are there. And even for Muslim children, the other thing is nursery rhymes and others. They also go into a lot of things about praising Jesus and other stuff. So a lot of Christian content is there as well. So then your kids really won't realize, you might be thinking, they're picking up these terminologies again through YouTube as well. So really, as parents, as Muslims, we need to be really vigilant as to what our children are watching and not just allowing easy access. It's difficult because a lot of the times parents may be busy and they think this is the way to keep the children occupied, but we need to find other means and other ways to do that to prevent harm. Any other question? Yes, brother.
It's probably worth highlighting there are some alternative, or smart alternatives for controlling your kids' access. It does require a bit of homework on the parent side. For example, with Google, you've got Famliy, where you set up a child's account and you have full access, so they can't download any applications. You can decide how much time they can spend on each application. You can set bedtimes, so the phone will switch off after a certain time. You won't switch on until the time you allocate. So you have full control over exactly what they can access and not. So that does need a bit of homework from a parent's perspective to understand how that works. But there is a bit of a middle ground where you don't have to completely stop the access, but you can see exactly what they're doing and control and give permission to what you want.
Yeah, you like that, and as I said, there's internet filters you can get in. Even with you can get, each devices can get different safety features that you can get put in within them that can restrict it. You can even get timers set on where the internet cuts off if you want to have specific times of usage and then stop kids using. But it does take the effort. You have to put the effort in, and if you are serious about your children and their future, then that effort is worth its time. And everything's easy now. You can easily find and how to do it all yourself online. You don't need somebody to help you set it up. It's quite very straightforward. There's videos on YouTube that actually show you step by step how to do these things. So you can do it, but it's worth the time. You might think it's a bit of time now and a bit of a hassle. Once you do it, it's for the long-term protection of your children. Any other questions? Okay. All right, inshallah. Then we'll conclude the session there then, inshallah. جزاك الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.